Once upon a time, a city girl named Felicity and a city boy named Peter bought an abandoned 1830s farmhouse in New York, and in mid-April 2025, Dad came to the rescue. So to catch you up real quick, if you're new to the channel, we moved into our abandoned 1830s farmhouse in the end of February and were completely overwhelmed by the amount of projects that needed doing. And my dad and mom graciously offered to send my dad out for a week of DIY adventures. So this is the first of the actual work getting done. There is a video all about the preparatory work for that. So if you want to check that out, you can check out the channel. But this video is where we actually get into it. The firewood platform is already staked out. The clothesline is already staked out, and it's time to get to work. Good morning, friends. It is day 2 of the dad extravaganza. The weather is way better today than it was yesterday. It's been sunny all morning. It's supposed to be sunny all day. Highs in the mid-50s. It feels like spring, unlike yesterday, which felt like late winter. So the first project of the day is getting the firewood platform set up, which is what Dad is working on down there. All of the wood you see there is from the pile of wood that was left in the barn. So it's been great to use those materials that were free. The paving stones, of course, are not. Those came from the farm store up the road. That's a 16-foot by 8-foot platform. At 4 feet tall, it could hold 4 cords of wood. If we stack the wood 6 feet tall, it would hold 6 cords of wood. We only need to hold 3. So that's the first project of the day, and I will bring you updates as I am able.
Yeah, you might want to go a little bit deeper.
Okay.
Until the head is. There you go. Yeah.
So having finished my work duties for the day, I decided to leave Dad to scurrying in the rest of the decking and drafted Peter to do our very first planting on the property. So these are the hostas that my mother very graciously dug up and divided. There are 5 sets of them, clumps of them, root balls of them. They look fantastic. I was going to plant them yesterday, which is the first full day they were here, but yesterday it was snowing. Today it is beautiful and sunny and 55, and we have about an hour before sunset. So Peter and I are going to see if we can get these in the ground and watered, and that will be one more task off the to-do list. So thank you, Mother dear, very, very much for the hostas. When these are prolific, we can say that their origin came from Iowa.
That is a large one.
So here is our firewood platform at the end of day 2. Dad has been reusing the plywood sheets that were down by the barn, and as you can see, they have all had bad bits that have had to be cut out, but he thinks there's enough here to kind of patchwork them all together. Of course, that takes more time, but it takes less money, which is lovely. And then just as we were closing up for the day, he found these also down by the barn. They're 3 shelves with a slightly fancier detailing on both sides or finish on both sides. So we're going to keep those if we can and use them for something a little more fancy making than a firewood rack. I must say, that looks quite substantive, doesn't it? Also, Dad said he found a piece of memorabilia when he was digging. You guys see this? It is, he said it's an old bottle cap opener, and it says old something ale or ace. It looks like old Topper Ace or old Tupper Ace. So we're going to see if we can get it clean. There's also some writing on the back. I think it says Rochester, New York, but then what it says at the end here, I can't tell. He said, "Oh, I thought I would throw it away, but then there was writing on it." And I said, "No, you can't throw it away. It's interesting. It's history. So we'll do a rubbing on it first, I think. And then if that doesn't work, we may try to soak it off with some vinegar and see if we can see what this is." And also, while I was at work today, the gentleman from the farm store dropped off the cattle panels, which look, frankly, much less intimidating now that I'm standing next to them than they did from up above. So there's 3 of these, and they are going to become garden arches. At least that's the plan. But they have to move because, as you can see, they put them right over the flag, and that flag is going to become the end of our clothesline tomorrow. So these will have to be moved, which is fine. All right, time to go inside and partake of some of that absolutely delicious pot roast that has been making the house smell amazing all day. Good morning, friends. It is day 3 of Dad Extravaganza, and we're starting the morning down by the stream because the wood pile that Dad has been using to source firewood platform material is down here. And there's 3 of these. They all have corners cut on 2 sides and a flat edge and some kind of brackets on the back. Dad's taken one of them up to use as patch for the firewood holder. But then there's a couple windows down here, which I didn't know. There's one here as well. There's a screen behind here. And then these doors. And then those are 2 pieces of plywood. They've been finished on not just the top, but the edges as well. And there's notches on both sides of them. So we will never know, of course, what was being done down here. But it does present some interesting possibilities for what we may do in future. So Dad says that these were vacuum tube receptors, so he thinks that somebody at the past either had an old radio down here or had an interest in old electronics. We found these 4 just standing in the area of the old barn, and he says he's found several more along with transistors and a couple other things. So a hobby or just a collector, who knows? And we are back, by we I mean Dad, is back at work on the firewood platform. We've got this big piece of plywood that has been sitting on our porch ever since the contractor crew left, so I'm glad to see it's been used. And I think we're going to have enough to fill in all the gaps. We're almost there. And so while he's doing all the hard work, I'm going to wander around our former porta potty glade up here and see how much trash I can put in this absolutely enormous trash bag. I didn't realize they made trash bags this big, but they do. So here we go. Here she be. The faithful garden cart in action once more, now as a mobile trash can. I found this early on today, and it is my digging stick. I am wearing gloves today. You all will be very excited to know. But it's just helpful to have something with a little bit of leverage to get on there that isn't my fingers. So this has been sitting here out in the woods at various locations for most of the build. And I never noticed there was writing on this side. It says, "Weight 285 for Robert C. Ferguson, First Lieutenant Nanner, maybe?" And I can't read that. Kaywood, New York, 1 of 5. So we assumed that this had been built for a firewood holder, but maybe it's a packing crate? Robert C. Ferguson is the one who inherited the property in 1980 when Jack and Marguerite passed away. And Robert C., we believe, is the either father or uncle of the people that we brought it from. He might also have been the one who was the pilot, and this may have been one of his packing crates. It had some insulation or something in it. It needs to be cleaned out, but it's in pretty good shape. We know so little about the people who lived in the house before us that any kind of history like that I find fascinating. So if any of you know anything about those packing crates or could read some of those initials on there, please let me know in the comments below. And now I'm going to go back to picking up trash in the glade, but I'm going to take you back to the firewood platform, which is infinitely more exciting. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. A firewood platform. She's all done. She's patched all along the edges and patched up there. We've used up pretty much all of the spare plywood that we had around the property, with a couple of small exceptions. It's funny how seeing the floor here has given me all kinds of interest. Oh, it could be a shed and we could do this and we could do that. And obviously none of that's going to happen right now, but it looks great. And I believe the only thing we need to do now is put T-posts on the ends to kind of keep the wood from falling off into the yard, and then she'll be ready for the wood pile, which is tomorrow's project. So while Dad took a well-deserved lunch break, I was determined to finish some more trash pickup before I had to go back inside for a couple of work meetings. The challenge with trash pickup is that you really can't see much of a difference unless you look at the trash itself in aggregate. So I've filled up most of that trash can with stuff. I mean, there's a lot of air in there. It's not packed full. But I have done all this section over here, all the way up to the road, all the way basically to this tree, and over to about there. So I still have that whole section back there to do, and then, you know, gradually sort of creeping down the yard and around that side. But for probably about an hour and a half, I would say, of dedicated work, that felt pretty good. What's really harshing my tater are all these little bits of paint, because of course they just crumble under my fingers. So I'm trying to pick up the bigger pieces as I go along. Meanwhile, Project T-post is underway at the firewood platform.
All right. This one is level. What's this one doing?
They're all interesting.
Not level.
They're also not all completely straight.
Not completely straight. Yeah, okay.
All right.
Careful.
Whew.
So it turns out that Peter is remarkably good at putting in T-posts, which is something that we will use to great effect in a couple of months when we are ready to put in those garden arches. For now, I'm going to leave Peter and Dad to T-posting, if that's the correct verb, and I am going to get back to trash pickup in the glade. I don't know if you're going to see the video. There's a very, very steep hole that goes down there, which I assume is home to some sort of wildlife. And then on the backside of our dirt mound from the driveway, there is another tunnel going in there, a smaller tunnel with lots of fur outside it. I hope that fur is from shedding and not something being eaten killed, but hard to say. More and more and more full. She's definitely up over the top now. I came through here just now. There were mostly pieces of carpet remnant and also some pieces of what I think are electrical wiring. What I want to do now is remove those boards and drag them out to our front yard so that if they are usable, we can use them, and if not, we can get rid of them somewhere more intentional. It is quite lovely back here. So over there kind of is where we planted the hostas, and we definitely need to figure out what to call this part of the yard. Right now we're calling it Nice Egg because our power pole and power meter are here, but it may need a fancier name in future. And with the trash pickup complete and the T-post complete, sorry for the lack of footage, but I apparently forgot to take any, we're on to the last project of the day, the clothesline. Great outdoor drying line project has begun. And probably one of the worst places to dig in the yard, because there is, as you can see in the dirt pile, quite a lot of brick The reason there's brick and all this other trash here is because our contractor team threw quite a lot of brick from the chimney and other miscellaneous debris out the kitchen window, and this is where they threw it. So this is not an easy thing to dig through. The problem is there's another piece of rock about that size down at the bottom of the hole, and neither Peter nor I have the...
There it is.
There she goes. That brute strength to just break it with the postal digger, but leave her with a shovel? Yes. So there she be. First of 2 holes for an outdoor clothesline. And I will have you all know that my contribution to this lovely hole was to stick my hand down in there and pull up rocks. And when it got too tall for me to be able to do that, I lay down on my stomach and stuck my hand down in there. So while I was in my meeting, host hole number 2 appeared. It was apparently no easier to dig than post hole 1, which is unfortunate. I thought it might be because it was out of the debris zone. And then the post in hole 1 is up. We haven't put the quickcrete in yet because there was an unexpected rain squall, which sort of ended work for the day. But post number 2 is in and ready for its quickcrete. Isn't that a sight? So after a long and very productive day, we had one more surprise that showed up just as we were finishing dinner. So when Aaron was here to deliver firewood 2 days ago, he mentioned he had an extra log splitter that he wasn't using, and would we like to borrow it for free? Well, of course we said yes, because that pile of tree you see behind there is the maple that used to sit out in front of our house, and we would love to split it into firewood-sized pieces. So Aaron graciously offered to loan us his log splitter over the weekend. We were expecting him tomorrow, which is Saturday, but here he is. We're now getting a tutorial on how to use it. Aaron is on the far side there. Just picked up a log from the pile and is explaining things to much nodding. I will admit, while my desire to learn how most things work is pretty high, this kind of machinery is not of particular interest. The outcome, however, is very much of interest. So thus endeth Dad Days 2 and 3. We have a firewood platform, which is super exciting, and getting that clothesline in was actually the other thing that was at the top of my dad wish list, so I'm super excited that we got started on that. Still to come in future Dad Days, we finish the clothesline. We build an insulated box around the water line coming into our basement. We put insulation in the kitchen basement ceiling, and we have a go at fixing our super ghetto, very broken south door. So I hope you've enjoyed part 2. I hope you stick around for part 3, and I look forward to seeing you in that video. Bye for now.